in my city, ladies and gentlemen. We're hearing that the city of New Orleans has been hit by terrorists. That's right. They have been hit by terrorists. Let's hear this thing.
And the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick, who is following these developments in Washington. You were listening into that update there. What do we know about this alleged deadly?
Absolutely a shame.
There, it is intentional. That is the wording from the police chief. And
they said that it was intentional.
The vehicle believed to have gone around the barricades here.
Yeah, so as we heard her describe, this happened around 3 in the morning local time on New Year's Eve, in the wake of New Year's Eve celebrations on Bourbon Street, around Canal Street, a very popular tourist destination, a popular destination for locals as well on a night like New Year's Eve. There had been a parade earlier in the day. Of course, lots of bars and restaurants in that area hosting New Year's Eve celebrations. So this happened in a busy area on a busy night, understandably, of course, and witnesses describing an absolutely horrifying scene. Some witnesses have described seeing a white pickup truck speeding down the street, crashing through a barricade and hitting people in the crowd. And we heard the police chief there saying as well that this truck went around the security barricades that had been set up in that area. She made it very clear that they're treating this as intentional behavior. We heard her say that this driver allegedly tried to run over as many people as possible. And she did reiterate that this was not a drunk driving situation, she had mentioned. So again, to recap the numbers that we know at this hour, they are reporting that 10 people have died and another 35 people have been brought to various hospitals in the city. And 2 police officers have been shot. So she described how when the vehicle...
So 2 police officers has been shot. So that means that this guy definitely was trying to accomplish something. He was out there with a pistol and he was just looking for something to do. Let's just say that.
Came to a stop after crashing. She says the driver fired upon police officers who were on the scene and 2 were shot. They are in stable condition, is the latest on those police officers. There had been a heavy police presence in the area for New Year's Eve celebrations earlier in the week. Local police saying how they would be at 100% staffing and had even brought in other police officers from other jurisdictions, an additional 300 officers. So a heavy police presence, not just because of New Year's Eve celebrations, but because the city is set to host a major football game today.
Right. The Sugar Bowl is today.
Football game. And so there are even more tourists in the city right now and visitors than normal because of that football game. So police had many preparations in place to, handle large crowds and for all these festivities. But as the superintendent there, the police superintendent made clear, she says this driver of this truck was intent on causing harm. Take a listen.
Last night, we had over 300 officers out here.
Right.
And because of the intentional mindset of this perpetrator...
What's going on, So Real TV? Salute, Happy New Year's to you, man. Unfortunately, we had to start it off with news like this. The first day of the year.
On creating the carnage and the damage that he did.
Now, in terms of the investigation, Marianne, we do know the FBI is involved now and taking over this investigation. And we heard from one of their investigators briefly who mentioned something about finding an improvised explosive device on the scene. And they're currently looking
improvised
into that, she said, to determine
explosive device.
She didn't elaborate much more beyond that in terms of where it was found or any details beyond that. And they didn't give too many details yet on the suspect, on the driver. Just saying it was a man, but otherwise not clear if he's in custody or what happened once the vehicle crashed. They are in the very early stages of the investigation. Again, this did just happen a few hours ago local time, and they are saying they will provide more updates throughout the day today.
Megan, thanks so much for this. And if we could take another look there at the scene this hour, because that is where it is still closed. Officials there at the scene telling everyone, including the mayor, telling everyone to stay away 8 blocks around Bourbon Street as this investigation continues. And in that update we heard a short time ago from officials there at the scene, they say they were not answering any questions from the media, but they are expected to have more updates throughout the day. And so we'll stay tuned for that and monitor anything more that comes from this investigation.
Man, that is absolutely crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I would have never thought that my city will be a subject of a terrorist attack. And I know many people are going to say, dude, we don't really know that. This was a terrorist attack. Yes, it was. It was intentional. As you heard, the guy had guns. The guy had an improvised explosive device. Think about that for a second. So he was out there ready to do whatever it is that he has done. That's what I see from the guy. This is a shame. Man. So 10 people are dead, 20 people are injured. What's the come of this? Like, really, guy, what's the come of this? Death, carnage, nothing. It just doesn't make any sense. It goes to show you that when it comes down to that of America, many times this place can have their focus in the wrong place, right? They're not focusing on what they should be putting all of the effort into. You know what I'm saying? This guy literally did all of this while 300 officers was out there. 300 of them. And as you saw or heard, the police chief was like, look, we had enough officers out there. So with that being said, we have to focus on how to keep that of civilians safe or safer. Yeah, I know he spontaneously did this. But if you have been on Bourbon Street through these type of times, as I have for the entirety of my life, do the officers really do be paying attention? Do they? Or do they just be standing around having conversations with each other, not really patrolling? See, New Orleans has had this problem for quite some time. When you look at New Orleans East, the reason why the crime is so high in New Orleans East at this very moment is because there is no police presence. No police is patrolling. And if you do see a police officer, it might be one of them. Just one of them. We have to do better protecting the civilians. Now, 10 people are dead, 20 are hospitalized, and we do not know if more people are going to die from all of this. We have to do better. Now, don't get me wrong. I acknowledge that it is hard to stop spontaneous acts, right? It is hard to stop it, but you have a better chance of doing it when your police officers are actually policing, actually being officers, and not homeboys out there on Bourbon Street. This is ridiculous. And so far, I do not believe that they have dropped the suspect's identity. Let's see, this is another video here. I believe they have unalived him. Let's go.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox 918 on the East Coast and 618 on the West Coast. We continue to cover the latest here on the investigation that is
he just has tainted
New Orleans,
Bourbon Street.
On the well-known Bourbon Street after Trump.
And what's crazy about it is me and my wife was supposed to go out there. We were supposed to go have fun in the French Quarters. So I could have been on Bourbon Street. For real. I could have been on Bourbon Street while this happened. I could have been one of those people either dead or hospitalized. I could have been one of those people. You could have as well. I just want to point that out. These people are crazy.
Truck intentionally rammed into a crowd of people who were celebrating New Year's. This was
Right. I don't even understand what's going on.
News conference we played for you a short time ago. Now we do expect to learn much more during a news conference just about 3 hours from now. The FBI is in charge of this investigation, but what we know,
The FBI has to be in charge because this is a terrorist
more than
attack.
30 others were injured, taken to various hospitals. Now, it is important to note that that number does not include people who may have been injured on the scene and refused hospital transport. That number.
So it could have been higher than 30 people.
Image right here, you are looking at those corner vans as all of Bourbon Street is blocked off, and police are urging everyone, whether you're a tourist or you live there, to avoid Bourbon Street as the investigation is ongoing. I do want to.
So here it is, New Year's Day, and the Sugar Bowl is about to happen, and the number one attraction of the French Quarters, you cannot attend. He has tainted this day. He has tainted this New Year's celebration that we all have to do in the city of New Orleans. He has.
Show here, Scott Duffy, retired FBI agent, to talk more about what we know and really what's still left to figure out. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, good morning, Josh. Thank you for having me on this morning.
And first off, just break down for me your
It's absolutely
initial thoughts.
crazy.
As you're hearing all of this unfold, there's conflicting information coming in from various agencies involved. Tell me your overall thoughts as you really just try to process this.
Yeah, so day one of 2025, and we're dealing with another mass casualty event. Whether it be a terror event, a mass attack, whatever the motivation, the mindset of this individual remains to be determined. And so here we are again discussing yet another tragedy, a criminal act by somebody who intended to hurt as many people as possible. And we see through the whether it be the police chief, the mayors, the elected officials, etc., through press conferences and information that is being relayed to the public, that this was an intentional act. And that's important.
Intentional act.
This is not somebody who, at least from what we're learning in the early investigation, somebody who was intoxicated, somebody who mistakenly went down a one-way street and ran over people and stopped and then was taken into custody or etc. They are saying this was intentional because of the early pieces of evidence, I imagine. Somebody who accelerated, that we're learning, somebody who probably went around barriers, and then, of course, what they're learning from what they've taken from the vehicle and everything that's unfolded since. So this is a criminal intended mass casualty attack, and that is way that the authorities are investigating it.
I did want to get your take on the statements that were made. The mayor of New Orleans walked up to the microphone, and the first thing she said was that New Orleans was hit by a terrorist attack. Then,
There it is.
at the FBI leading the investigation, they came up and said, whoa, we don't know just yet if this is a terrorist attack. They actually said this is not considered a terrorist event at
Well, the FBI needs to understand this. Even if he is a domestic civilian, he can still be a terrorist.
this point. What do you make of that? Because again, we're talking about some conflicting information, but it is, of course, early on in the investigation. This just happened hours ago.
Yeah, so this is where you would typically, as we have seen in the past couple of years, where there is a unified message, and it's important that a unified message be presented. So we already know, at least from both sides, that being a federal and a local level, that this was an intentional act. It's not being investigated as an accident. And
If it's
so
intentional,
then
it's a
we get
terrorist
into
attack, right?
what was the intention or the motivation behind this act? Was it a mass attack? So you have mass shootings, and ultimately we try to get to the motivation of an individual, whether it be some sort of revenge, some sort of grudge, and thereby they must exact their pain on others. And so, what is the motivation behind this individual who drove that vehicle into a crowd intending to do harm? Typically, we see that this is being investigated by the FBI or being investigated by the locals in with support of the FBI, with their crime scene, their evidence response teams, etc., and that this is being worked jointly, and that there is a joint unified message where you can say, hey, we're looking at all aspects of this to include a potential domestic or international terroristic act. So I'm a little surprised that we're not seeing that unified message, and I hope that the powers that be will be on the same page in the forthcoming press conference.
Facts.
And kind of on that same note here, during the press conference, they have said, the first one, they said no questions. They just kept it to, we're going to make our initial statements, and that's it. Questions will be asked or allowed during the next news conference. What question or questions do you hope will be answered specifically during that news conference? You touched on that, but what else do you hope will get maybe a clearer picture of?
Well, I think there has to be a clarification. And so I would imagine at this next press conference that is going to be unified in the sense that you're going to see, like we have seen in many other unfortunate events like these, where you have both federal, state, and local, and as well as whatever elected officials are there, that they are at the podium together, and that they are providing information, answering the questions, specific questions. So, for example, you already have a member of the FBI that is saying this is not a terroristic act, as opposed to we're looking into that. And so a question should be followed up on. What was it that made you say that? And so you may have a little bit of walking back. You may have a piece of information that the FBI was in possession of, and so thereby it's not shared with the local law enforcement, and so that should be clarified. Which amazes me that something like that would be said unless they had something very specific to indicate that. And in other words, is there a manifesto? Is there a letter? Is there something in the vehicle that was already captured that was able to give the motivation of this individual to where the FBI can hang their hat on to say this is not being investigated as a terroristic act domestically or internationally, and thereby as a mass attack, the criminal intent, in other words, a murderous act. So I hope there can be some sort of specific information and a question to be asked. Why are there two different motivations being provided here? One that it's emphatic that is a terroristic act, and then one that's emphatic it's not a terroristic act. There seemed to be that there was no room for error there. So I would hope that there may be a clarification to say this is why we said what it is, and this is what it is being investigated as, or I shouldn't have said that, and thereby all options are on the table as to the motivation behind this driver.
And that's what I'm saying. The FBI is saying, oh, we don't know it was a terror. Yes, it is. It is. Anything that's intentional, that is intentional, is certainly that of a terrorist attack. Regardless how many people are trying to differentiate that of a school shooting and whatever it is that Bin Laden has done to this country, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. One is just a domestic terrorist, and the other is a foreign. My city do not deserve this. This is how I feel. No city deserves this. This is a thing of the past. At least we all thought so. You know what I'm saying? But it seems to me that people have this same mindset that they had 30, 40 years ago. Just take everything out on the people that you don't like. You know what I'm saying? If you got a problem with this country or you got a problem with this city or that person, you know what? We have to harm them. This is why we cannot get peace. Because demons like this lives amongst us. That is what this guy is. He is a demon. 10 people dead, 20 people are in the hospital. And they're also saying that some people who were injured didn't even go to seek treatment. So it could possibly be 50 people. Right. It could be. It could be. We don't know. But this is a disaster. And I feel sorry for those people who have lost their lives. 10 people are dead. And I know that they didn't have any clue that it was about to happen to them. I feel so sorry for those people. They're out there trying to have a ball. And some guy hits his gas. And for what I'm hearing, he was going 100 miles an hour down that or Bourbon Street, which I thought was impossible. I saw the video, somebody's laying on the ground. I won't go into details of what I saw, but I feel so sorry for those people. They're out there trying to have a ball, get ready for New Year's Day, probably had plans on going back to Bourbon Street after they got themselves a nap, because that's how we do it down here. And on the first, and here it is, they would not see another day. Just out of the blue. Just out of the blue. Makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And I hope those 10 people who are in the hospital, well, I'm sorry, 20 people who's in the hospital at this very moment, I hope that they're okay as well. Because I'm pretty certain that they had a life scare, right? Their lives flashed before their eyes, you know what I'm saying? Especially hearing that 10 other people has passed away from this incident. I'm your boy. Hopefully you'll watch this video all the way to the end and help me out that algorithm, man. If you're not subscribed, please be sure to do so. I'm trying to reach that magical number 1,000 subscribers, so I'll be highly appreciative. You will help me cross over that threshold by hitting that subscribe button. And if you're going to hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell, because YouTube absolutely sucks at notifying subscribers that content creators has uploaded videos to the platform. And don't forget to hit that like button to help me out that algorithm, baby. But in the comments below, let me know what you think of this massacre, right? And tell me if you feel that it was a terrorist attack, which I'm pretty certain a lot of people will. Shout out to you, Jason Clark. Prayers to you, man. But this is absolutely crazy. Thank you for tuning in to New Orleans Sports Media.